Hello. Some business in the country, you have the business and the casting, those from the family from the father, you have another thing with the group, I don't understand the very information that the results in the package. In mind, I will know the feeling, like not ready, not like your heart, like the brain, like toes, seeing around, what is carrying. Yeah.
The audio quality at your end, I can't hear anything. It's all muffled. It's so, I can't hear. I can't hear. I can't make out what you're saying at all.
I'm not it's one of the business. It needs me to be always to be a
I can't, you're gonna have to text me. I can't hear anything. It's all muffled.
I'm really well, you should try to use that little bit of that. That's not we have that. That's the thing about the violence because of gets the board members, the city houses, and my name is Scott Allen. No place we thought we started. We started in 2021, and then I the portion of grants, the Russia, we started in 2022. Myself and my good friend and my colleague, and I know from Brian, that together and what we do, what we have. And last night, I was everything really exists at the website. Found a bunch of relationships with other those that I've read. Who is from Ukraine and person for facts. I haven't back to Ukraine and capabilities. We were in 2024. We went back. How was all started live today and something to use this very important, especially there's another thing to find the sheet and the girls who type business back there. I should put me in contact with the side of the sheet. I'm a problem in many things. This is something like different little things, especially something outside. You've done a lot of the number of speaking players and it's separate and the cameras, so it's finding and responding community, all of the nations over there. A lot of them, which led to us getting access to their buying of the vehicle, getting the most of those animal food for the animals out of the space so that I used the orphanage that lost everything. The military, what brought me in, I would be good at aiding the front lines and then of course, I need to make their drive for law enforcement. And it's all started when I'm becoming like this. There's this officer that wearing protected gear. And we can argue before we can read the idea, and we were just trying to 15 people who are we provide a sister officer like that. I'm very good contact with LPSB who was known as a facility impact on the college. And so there's a lot of work, especially with the linguistics that line up and keyboard in with the writers and contacts over there. Not my idea there. So I'd like to tell you, your thousand people that body member. A good time with the blind police or whatever, so but people in Facebook where the money base and the efforts for the street and one of the big ones that we supply in conversations with the truth and embracing what we want to do in terms of enforcement. And all these police officers like really happening with the front lines, the council, and briefing, areas of, how do we manage them and things from the war. And so we were able to take the guns promotion of the chief and first the game and along the final we the academy, we have seen such pain and a lot of these are probably the sale of the property plans and of course the ball came and one of the student came and sang. And it's super stable engagements and relationship. With me, it's meant to do the chief who chiefs the barrier and probably with being very interested in products and what we were doing. And your organization was a daily and business. Come on, another organization, we can take 6% off the time, pay ourselves. This is all grassroots stuff. So we were, we did something, they were hand on board to say, give out to them to, they items come to we want to make this alive, the meeting success. That's what we never lost an item, not holding an item. And we were some of the packaging, tendency better aids, but as far as it was being earlier, not used to waste it. So the panel, that's an example, but the last two body here wasn't maybe some better usage. And this body panel for million they would finish, they would persist to the end of the blankets, with the thought of satisfaction. So it's impressive, and probably, as I said, I haven't had somebody parties that we can go and see what about we have around one of the and second for the cheap batteries. If you happen to recall the phone soil and the bones that you've been talking about the farm, but I'm out of there and we were looking at the ones taking the last name, I think it's the farm, but we were listening to real in school. The comparison of the where we're going to do it with mind blowing. The things that we got was there with all the school events and planes and biobuilding and the world. And between 300 years, you live and you clean out the really new examples. Not as many other babies, but and by then it's really good. And so one of the last of the cheapest kind of what the other we received pretty good letter these bond tests are all over the and then we can deal with the rate without the still over money every day and especially with the chiefs before and then by the fundraising and the chief without the 11 members the increase as well as the account there I think that these 5 areas and they've been genuinely before the company in this as we might manage the law and many Germans believe in military to the that's our stuff we do this until we believe in service and certainly if you want to do it I'm going to shoot guys in the death and all the members of this team we really do so we planning and this terrible really has been unnecessary and bringing on to the quality loan. You have to think that the worst of the thing when people keep doing and proximity, they will. So it's time to do every team and as a team and we've been listening and now from the other what's the share us to our law enforcement. We might do that as these call it as high level get a military with the community and the military. I would like to add recognitions that we'd like to bestow on the chief and on the deputy. We premium and things that up to date and the coffee and the same thing. We'll just have to get some of them. But yes, an environment and I think for having us today. I'm just going to do my last translate this from the Ukrainian language to English, so you will understand this. Statement and news and services of Ukraine. Remember the labyrinth of the immediate region, rather appreciation for the Diamond. The unit of military rescue unit of Central Force of the main director of the State of Emergency Services of Ukraine intervened against the border region with Russia, and they got to Russian visitors the first invasion. Because the general express gratitude to you for your assistance during the difficult time for our country. The stability provided contribute to preserving the lives and health of the personnel engaged in helicopter operations, humanitarian reliance, and ensures the timely execution of tasks related to the humanitarian reliance of settlements, infrastructure facilities, in the region, and the use of the territories contaminated with stability as a result of a large-scale invasion of the armed forces of the Russian Federation in Ukraine. We sincerely wish you well-being, harmony, strong heart, family comfort, optimism, and perseverance in your difficult but highly necessary work. Victory Gospel, glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes, with respect and gratitude, Commander of the Unit, Alexander Bakin. Thank you for that name. Thank you. And same messages. Yeah, thank you. Well, that's the base for the moving to cases and those are not to be in the full blind flyers. Full blind, that's all of that. The name from the to that. So what we do, get up to us and the Ukrainian flag signed by the Ukrainian members. Just wait. All right. so much. Love is also we will celebrate and we will know that. It's just about 200. Just letting know that it's not just part of it. It's about an ending with yourself. And those absolutely. Communicating but London itself, the village, the city, for 200,000 kilograms of baby got shipped over securely, effectively, and reached. And I wanted to look at that one too. Sad in the valley is some of the signatures of the people and along the roads. Given out these flags. Sometimes the entire units were having gone. It's garbage. It's lifesaving. And we've had calls from night attacks, someone online crying on the other line, saying that, hey, I was able to say there's been boxes. There's like, we're trying to get through this, we're back. I was able to do this. And if I just one person that did this, I just one piece of feedback. We don't know the ones that we see. Like you're like, but you know, that's how out in London. I mean, that was the support that's over there. London is in London to Ukrainians. And it's like you before with them, especially the ones that have been after the conflict started. There was a little bit there. It was the big house, the Ukrainians providing them. Some of them, you know, imagine how psychological challenges that have been faced. They will provide that. They will provide education, lengthening employment. Learning is about being a place in power. And we are all about it. Always here and that needs that assistance. So again, thank you from all of us. It's a new city that we can all back to always be proud. Chair, before you take the floor, I just say the other words. So I'll say these two gentlemen are significant leaders in the community. What they continue to do each and every day within the community is very aligned with this broad in our organization, and it is about community. This is extremely nice. I got honest here with the board and everybody there. I didn't do much work. I can tell you that our people will work to make this happen. And when I spoke to Scott and Vladimir, you know, simply sharing that, you know, young women and girls are being deployed to defend their country, and there's no body armor for them. It was simply, like, how can we help them? Living for us, we have catalog desks that are members where there's end of life cycle for those desks. We have equipment that have end of life cycle. What we do is typically we send them for destruction. And what these gentlemen brought forward was, instead of sending for destruction, there's a lot of use out of the equipment before that happens. It's a waste. And by all accounts, the best life cycle of 5 years, but the life cycle goes beyond, right? And there is use. So there's all we did, and all Deputy Bastion and I did, was we inquiries on how do we do it properly, and how do we ensure that we don't waste any of the equipment that is at the end of the life cycle. So we simply worked with these gentlemen to make that happen. Our people did all the work, And I gotta just, thank you. This is extremely kind, and I will accept this on behalf of our organization and our board that is extremely supportive. But truly, thank you to you gentlemen for, I would say, accepting myself, the deputy, and all organizations into your community and allowing us to be there and support you and be part of your community. So this is a tremendous honor. Thank you so much. I think that means exercise on that. So I would choose doing that First of all,
Do you actually sign back in?
Yeah, sure. Nancy, you sign.
Oh,
in
perfect.
there, actually, you can see the comparison. Thank you. You're doing that right now.
Yeah, it hasn't been. We did a bunch of it for a while. Yeah. It's been falling off.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay.
Is she here?
She seems to be able to hear.
Okay. Or no? That's,
So, you know, the mayor,
Yeah.
we will, I need to have him on the phone.
okay,
I'll call. Yeah, I'll call.
for now.
I'm like, grandmother. Let me hear.
Yeah.
I'm saying tomorrow.
Gotcha.
I'm through crossing the beacon. Yeah. Roll it. Yeah.
You were very.
Yeah, I know, and that's that's why I never trust you. It's hard, like, to call it completely. It was very defined, but it wasn't where it said it was gonna be.
Oh, I will do. I won't hesitate. Don't worry. Thank you so much. It's definitely. And yeah, through answer. And like us.
Well, I'm gonna picture later to sign my book, I'll tell you.
It's so beautiful. It's what we do. Yeah, you did. Look for something.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks, Nancy. Good.
Try to address it.
Nancy's good.
So it looking weird. Actually, so it's so I'm going to make a police or something website. And there's like 2 games. But wait, it's no step. Hey, so when you put Sean's speakerphone, you check this out forwards and then if there's any problems, okay, thanks. Okay, one on, thanks. So I can, so he's, use click on the, I'm using to check errors. So you were good when you were. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, everybody, for your indulgence and patience as we deal with IT issues. Hopefully, these are just one-offs, but we'll just press forward. Nancy can hear us, and we have member Morgan connected as well. So, moving on through the agenda, we're going to move on to agenda item number 3.1, which is inquest recommendations. I'll speak to this briefly to give a little bit of a synopsis in terms of what this relates to and kind of next steps and process. By way of background, in this public, there was a public coroner's inquest relating to the death of Samuel Maloney, which happened back in December 23, 2016. There was a dynamic entry by the London Police Service, and what happens sometimes is that there will actually be a public inquest that ensues, where a jury will consider a series that will consider the facts, will speak and interview, there'll be a number of witnesses, and then we'll make a series of recommendations to a whole host of organizations. So in this case, that inquest took place recently. There was a number of members from the London Police Service who attended and gave evidence before the inquest. I attended on behalf of the board to give evidence on behalf of the board. And then there was a series of recommendations that were advanced by the inquest, so by the jury. Included in the package is a report from the inquest into the death of Samuel Maloney, and it outlines a series of recommendations by the juries to the London Police Service, to the London Police Service Board, to the Special Investigations Unit, or more commonly known as SIU, to the Office of the Chief Coroner, to the Children's Aid Society. You see that there was a series of recommendations that were provided by the jury to these organizations, recommendations that take place. So now that the London Police Service Board and the London Police Service are in receipt of these recommendations, we have 6 months, I believe, from the time that we receive the recommendations to consider, discuss, and determine a course of action on behalf of the board in relation to the recommendations from the jury. So we've included it in the package because now it's been publicly, the jury's recommendations are publicly disclosed. I wanted to share it with you, board members, and you with members of the public, to let you know that we are in receipt of the recommendations, and that in the coming months, we will be considering the recommendations and determining a course of action in terms of which recommendations and how we would implement them if that's the will of the board there. So the report is in your package. I would be pleased to answer any questions that you may have. We have our counsel, Amanda Shaw, who was instrumental in helping guide the process for the board. I worked very closely with Ms. Shaw during this entire process, and she was just stellar. And so I just want to say thank you to Ms. Shaw for her sage counsel and advice during this process there. So that being said, any questions with regards to the report, potential next steps? If so, I'd be pleased to entertain them, or Executive Director Johansson as well, if there's any questions. So, all right, seeing none, this will be coming to, it'll be an agenda item, I imagine, in an upcoming board meeting where we're going to come back and consider some of these things. But just for the sake of putting it on the public record, we are in receipt and we're going to do accordingly there. So thank you very much for that. Moving on with the agenda, we go to section 3.2,
of the agenda, which deals with committee assignments, and specifically Finance and Governance Committee. I'm going to look over to Executive Director Joe Manson to walk us through the report and kind of next steps.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the February meeting, you agreed to, stay consistent with the committee assignments for 2025 for the HR committee. It was then noted that you would like to strike a finance committee. And also in discussions and in the work that I'm doing here, I know that there's an appetite to also reestablish a governance committee. These two committees did exist before. There's been a lot going on in the last year or so. So I know that the board wishes to reestablish these two committees. One thing that I did not put on here is that generally it's common practice for the chair to be ex officio on each committee. So I don't know if that's something that you wish to discuss as well.
Thank you, Executive Director Johansson. So what we have before us is a recommendation that we reconstitute the Governance Committee and the Finance Committee as committees of the board. So I guess the first part of the discussion would be, is there a will or desire to reconstitute those committees? And if the answer is yes, then we'll look to populate those committees with interested members who would serve on the committee for the course of the year. And then we would revisit it annually at our first board meeting, determine who, if anybody, wants to stay on it. So, yeah. Go ahead.
I'm just going to formally move the creation of both those committees, Chair.
Okay, so we have Vice Chair Goss moving the creation of the Finance Committee and the Governance Committee of the Monthly Service Board. Second. I'm gonna give it to Member Branscombe here. Right? So, all the IT things. All right, it's yours, Nancy. We got it. Just beat Member Stevenson there. All right, so that's anyone opposed to the creation of a Finance and Governance Committee on behalf of the Monthly Service Board? Seeing none. Okay, that motion passes. So now I'm going to look to populate the Finance Committee first, and then we'll do Governance second. So
HR.
and
No, but it's not been officially established. It wasn't. Oh, okay.
yeah, you're on here.
No, yeah, just want to make sure. No official.
So you're not allowed to. You're stuck on it. So we're gonna start with the Finance Committee. So I'd be looking for interested.
Sorry.
Yes.
Just, I guess, a point of order or clarification, frankly, on the appointment process. So just because I think maybe we want to deal with the ex officio part first, because I'm wondering then if we can get guidance on whether or not we would run into a quorum situation if we then have 3 members plus a chair who's ex officio, because then we would have the majority of the board and a committee. So maybe we should. I could talk through that before we populate.
Absolutely. So let's talk process here, right? So my understanding is, and I'll look to Executive Director Johansson and potentially our zone advisor, Mr. Leclerc here, is that statutorily speaking, there needs to be a minimum of 2 members on a committee. 2 members poses theoretical issues in terms of a split vote, right? And so our practice has been historically here at the board to have an odd number, so 3 members on the board during the committee. So that would be question number 1, which is number of committee members, and then it feeds into the second point that Vice Chair Goss raised, which is, all right, some boards across the province have it where the chair of the board, by virtue of being the chair, can participate in each committee meeting. The question then becomes, if you have a committee of 3 individuals and the chair joins as the 4th, you then have a majority of the members of the board, and then there's quorum. And so that poses problems as well. So the question really for determination, the first question for determination is, what's the number of committee members that we want to have on finance and governance, right? So it would either be 2 or 3. And then a question as to whether if it's 2, then the chair being ex officio doesn't really matter. But if it's 3, then I would respectfully argue to Vice Chair Goss's point that poses at least a potential problem in terms of having quorum. So I would then ask for feedback. And I know this is riveting stuff for the people in the back here. So I would ask for kind of feedback in terms of at least the composition here. Yeah, Vice Chair Goss.
Just some initial comments. I think that the one kind of formal committee that's been struck and that's been functioning for the last year and a bit is the HR committee, which has been 3 members, which I think does very well. I have real concerns personally with a 2-member committee. Though we have the best chair ever, I wonder if the.
Make sure that's in the
I wonder if the ex officio then puts the onus on the chair to be at all those meetings, which I again, then I go back to the point where I don't like the two members. So that's why I would be more inclined to, let's have a 3-member committee established for both governance and finance. Should the chair want to be one of those members on said committee, that's great. And we would then continue on with HR at 3, finance at 3, and governance at 3. And then I think that's probably the best course of action. Then we don't have the ex officio clause that then puts us in the wrong situation.
And to clarify, and again, I'll look to Mr. Rick, I don't think there's anything that precludes any member, if you're not on a committee, from attending the committee meeting. You don't have voting privileges there, right? But there's nothing that precludes, if you're not on governance, but you want to come to a governance meeting, feel free to come, right? And go ahead.
That's correct. And the best advice I would give is not more than 3.
Yeah.
In some compositional form, which I'll leave to you guys
Duly
to
noted.
decide.
Duly noted. Okay, any further discussion on the number of members on the committee? That, I guess what Vice Chair Goss has said is 3. He's articulated the reasons for that. Member Branscombe?
Thanks. I think it should be 3, and I don't think the chair should be ex officio. I think you've got tons of work to do. The whole point of having the committees is to share the burden of the workload. And so if you're on every committee, then that's kind of defeats the purpose for me. So that would be my recommendation.
You are preaching to the converted, my friend. Yeah, absolutely. So, any other last remarks on this point? Otherwise, Member Lane.
Is there a term length on these committees?
Yeah, there's their 1-year terms to be reviewed at the first meeting of the year. So,
Sorry, the first meeting.
but yeah, it should be technically the first meeting, right? And then the committees will exist, but then we'll go back to the board to ask, we'll ask members who wishes to be on which committee. And I believe that's in the CSPA. I don't quote me on that, but I believe that's in there. So, okay, so it sounds like we have consensus in terms of the composition being 3 members, right? Okay, do we need to pass a motion to that effect? Okay, so why don't we just do it just by the books, right? So
Second.
a motion to establish the Finance Committee and Governance Committee with a composition of 3 members of the board for each committee. That's moved by who? Who moved it? Moved by Member Branscombe, seconded by Member Stevenson. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Now we move on to step 3, which is who wants to be on what, right? So let's start with finance first. I'll canvass the board to see if there's any interested parties. I'm seeing Member Stevenson with her hand up. Member Branscombe with her hand up. Need one more. Member Lehman with his hand up. Are there any other members who wish to join the committee? If so, please say no, because then we have to do a vote then, right? So seeing none, quickly moving on. I see no further. So by way of acclamation, we will have Member Stevenson, Member Lehman, and Member Branscombe as the members of the Finance Committee. And then we will leave it to you to work with Executive Director Johansson to create kind of terms of reference and all of that stuff. And then you'll determine the scope and frequency, bring it back to the board, and we'll go from there. But I appreciate you volunteering for those positions. So moving on to Governance Committee. Likewise, I will ask canvass members of the board, are there any interested members who wish to serve on the Governance Committee? And if so, all right, we have Member Walker, Vice Chair Goss.
I have a question. I may be, but I just want to know exactly what the governance committee is going to do, or some. I know we have a terms of reference we'll be getting, but what is the main reason for the governance committee?
Yeah, so basically, my understanding, Executive Director Johansson can it's a committee of the board that will review governance matters such as policy review, policy creation, looking at the legislative requirements under the CSPA, looking at developing kind of governance recommendations to the board for our consideration, and then go from there. Listen, I want to say, Nancy, you're already on finance, and
yeah, I think that's enough.
Yeah, so I do. I'm not saying you don't do it, but I don't want to.
No, that's more than I want to take on. Thanks.
I do. I am happy to sit on that board. I do have a legal and governance background, so I think there might be some value to the organization, right? So So if there isn't anybody that wants to do it, I'll fill in the third spot there, so. Okay, so it looks like governance committee will be, member Walker, vice chair Goss, and myself. And so we'll look for, I guess, a motion to accept those members on both the governance and the finance committee there. So that's moved by vice chair Goss, seconded by member Walker. Okay, anyone opposed? Seeing none, question by member
Okay, I just
Walker.
want to make sure that our HR committee stands as it is.
We can pass it.
No, I just don't want to lose these two members if they're going to take other roles. Yeah, good, perfect. And you too, Nancy, you're okay to?
No problem. Yeah.
That is, like, just, then it's all the terms are no.
Well, the term, I think we did this at the February board meeting, I'm pretty sure, so I don't want to duplicate a motion.
It's in the
But-
minutes. It's already done.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's already done, so, so now, just to clarify, these committees will run until January of 2026, at which point, the board will, the chair of the board will at that point ask whether members want to stay or whether they want to shift, but until from between now and January 2026, these are the committees of the board, right? So,
Move.
well, who knows? Yes, that's what I said, yeah, the chair there. Okay, thank you, everybody, for enduring that process. Moving on in the agenda, we have section 3.3 dealing with sponsorships, conferences, and awards. I'm going to look over to Executive Director Johansson to walk us through that report.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just, this time I'll just read the blurb about the purpose of the report. So it's to confirm the board's sponsorship commitments for 2025. You have a series of standing sponsorships that you've sort of dedicated yourself to year over year. I am recommending a formal review of these sponsorships in January of 2026 to assess the impact, alignment with organizational priorities and potential for future commitments. So just to sort of assess, in the new year, just where we stand with all the sponsorships, if there's, want to increase the sponsorships or talk about sort of reallocation. So I'm also seeking board approval for $5,000 sponsorship to support the 2025 Ontario Association of Police Boards Conference, which is being held in London this year. This contribution aligns with the LPSB's commitment to community engagement and industry participation. I have attached as an appendix to this. It is the member sponsorship opportunities. The reason I outline the number 5,000 is because London is the host city. So it's being held in London this year. So we're going to we're coordinating and working with the OAPSB sort of to show all the great work that's being done here. And it is customary for the host board to contribute that amount and split some of the events with the OAPSB, and they'll be splitting it halfway. So that's where that number comes from, and it does fall within the current sponsorship budget for this year.
Thank you, Executive Director Johansson. Any questions for Ms. Johansson with regards to her report?
I have one.
Yeah, Member Morgan.
I'm happy to have a motion of up to that amount, but given it's a major conference, and if it's going to drive overnight stays, if it hasn't been done already, Tourism London actually has budget and supports conferences where it makes sense and it's in alignment with them. So, whether it's us or them contributing, I'm happy to kind of authorize the amount up to. But if we haven't pursued that opportunity already, I would encourage engagement with Tourism London, especially if the conference drives significant overnight hotel rooms, because support from things like the municipal accommodation tax and the tourism side might be possible. I'm not going to commit that, but might be possible in some way.
Yeah, so I haven't, I'm not quite certain what the outcome was, but I do know that the OAPSB event coordinator, they have been in contact with Tourism London to discuss options. So I'm not entirely sure what, the contribution is and what that looks like, but they have definitely been in coordination with that.
Okay, as long as we pursue that option.
Yep, perfect. Thank you, Member Morgan. Vice Chair Goss.
Yeah, I'm gonna move that we that the London Police Board considers the information on the report, including determining the sponsorship amount of up to $5,000 for the 2025 OAPSB conference, and reviewing standing sponsorships at the January 26th board meeting. I'm also going to just That maybe if you want to get a seconder and then just, I just have one thing to say.
So that's moved by Vice Chair Goss for a seconder for that, Member Layman. Okay, go ahead.
And I just say that I think that this is something that this isn't unique to London, having attending the Canadian Association of Police Governance Conference out in Halifax, which was unbelievable wealth of knowledge that, you know, encourage board members to attend those events when possible. A lot of police services boards, not only the host cities, but various boards do sponsor to make sure that these events are possible. And, you know, this isn't a junket. This is actual, like, a lot of workshops, a lot of opportunities for different services to present best practices. The amount of knowledge that member Stevenson and I took out of Halifax, I won't speak for her, but I'll say that it was quite impressive and even exceeded my expectations. So I think that this is well in line with what other police services boards do in the province and frankly across the country. So I'm happy to, as I said, that motion.
Thank you. Any further debate, discussion on the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, I will call the question on the motion, which I think you told me, Kathy, was great, it would be up to 5,000.
Just to with the amendment we're gonna say.
Okay, so an approval of an amount up to $5,000 for that is the motion that's on the floor. Is there anyone opposed to the motion? Seeing none, that motion is carried there. Thank you. All right. That is for that one.
That's
So moving on in the agenda, we are going to go to agenda item 3.4, which deals with organizational review. I'll speak to this one, members of the board, and if you have any questions with regards to that. But I just want to provide a little background. It's in there's a report in the actual your package, but just I want to provide a little bit of contextual background here. You'll recall that a number of months ago, the board embarked upon an organizational review of the London Police Service. We've been working diligently as a board and working in conjunction with the chief and the deputies and members of the service as we review been looking for operational efficiencies within the service. We've enacted to date over the last number of months. We've already done a number of major things. You know, we created the third deputy position here at London Police Service in alignment with Chief Trung's main priorities of community trust, organizational wellness, and community safety. We created the position of executive director with the London Police Service Board. We're currently undergoing a governance and policy audit where we're looking at all of our policies, all of our governance processes and procedures to make sure not only that they're in alignment with the CSBA, but also to identify whether there are any operational gaps that exist within the service. Again, not the most interesting stuff, but there'll be much more to say about that as we go through that process. So there's been a lot of work that we've been doing over the course of the last number of months, looking for, as part of that governance organizational review. One of the recommendations that's coming before the board today, and this is part of in conjunction with the review that's being done by MNP of the organization, was the creation of, well, actually I should say really the consolidation of two positions into one. You'll recall previously that we had a senior director of finance, we had a senior director of legal services, and we had a senior director of HR, 3 positions. The recommendation that's before you today is to actually consolidate 2 of those positions into one. So under the umbrella of a CAO position, a Chief Administrative Officer, and the creation of a General Counsel position as well. And so you'll see in the report there's the background, purpose, rationale in terms of what that relates to. And I would be pleased to answer any questions that you may have with regards to that recommendation. So.
Sorry, I just a little point of verification on the CAO, that would be civilian.
That's correct. That's correct. So the recommendation, as you see in the report, is that in the position of CAO would be created, and with the two previous positions of Senior Director of Finance and Senior Director of HR would no longer exist and they would be captured. Two positions would become one under the new CAO position. So what the recommendation that's coming to you today isn't, it's to initiate the procurement process associated with beginning that process, right? Going out there, engaging, an organization to help us advertise, procure those positions and begin that process there. So, yeah, go ahead, Vice Chair Goss.
I'll move the recommendations outlined in the report.
Okay, that's moved by Vice Chair Goss. Looking for a seconder on that. Seconded by Member Walker. Any questions, debate, discussion with regards to the contents of the report or my verbal report? Member Lehman.
Just a quick comment here. The goal of this board was to assist the chief in managing this large service unit for London in the most effective and efficient way possible. And I think we are definitely getting there. And I just want to thank you and your team because I know it was an extra challenge to manage through this transition period. So I just wanted to say we recognize the extra, tasks that have fallen on you and your team's shoulders during this transition period. Thank you. And I think it'll be worth it once we complete this task.
Thank you. Member Lehman, any other comments with regards to this? And I will say, before I call the vote on this, this is just the latest phase or the latest iteration. There will be more recommendations that come forward in coming months. There will be a series of other organizational structural moves that the board will be making, right? But at this stage, we're just looking for authorization to proceed forward with this procurement process here. So it was moved by Vice Chair Goss. It was seconded by Member Walker. Any objection to proceeding forward with the recommendation? Okay. Now I'm going to just deal with them separately because there's a second part that the executive director worked with the board to solicit a minimum of 3 quotations for consideration as outlined in LPSB policy 103 and report back to the board the results of the procurement process with a recommended firm for approval. So I'm looking for a mover on that. That's moved by Member Lehman, seconded by Member Stevenson. Anyone opposed to authorizing Executive Director Johansson to solicit three quotes there? Seeing none, that motion is carried. And then we'll deal with ad hoc thing afterwards, right? So, okay. Thank you very much for that, board. We can now put forward with that process there. So, moving through to the next item on the agenda, we'll go to section 5.1 or section 4, Deputy Chief McSween, looking at the 2024 year-end financial position reports, Deputy Chief McSween.
It's been a long day. Thank you for your chair. As the board is aware, annually, the London Police Service Board is provided with a summary of year-end results and reserve fund balances. And actual costs as compared to budgeted costs are commonly resulting in variances. So the report that you have before you is the operating budget year-end results for 2024. And I'd ask that Director Graham please come forward to provide additional information should there be any questions of the board, as she is our in-house subject matter expert.
Okay.
All right. So, do you want to provide an overview, or the board can just go right into questions if they have it? But why don't you provide an overview?
So through the chair, this report provides a summary of the London Police Service's financial results for the year ending December 31st, 2024. The recommendation is that the board receive the unaudited financial reports for this period for information. The 2024 operating surplus came in at $7,238,971, which represents a 4.4% of the net operating budget. This surplus has been fully allocated to the Police Service Reserve Fund to support long-term financial stability. In addition, there was a one-time draw of $1.28 million from the reserve to cover unforeseen capital expenditures. So the net impact on our reserve for 2024 was $5.9 million. Regarding our capital projects, all of our projects were on target except for the business analytics project, which went slightly over budget. But this will be covered off by an additional approved funding in 2025. So in 2024, there was actually 7 capital projects that were successfully completed. And then as the deputy had outlined, this report also outlines balances of all of our police reserves as of December 31st, 2024.
Perfect. Thank you, Director Graham. Members, any questions for Director Graham with regards to the report? All right. Seeing none, I'll look for a motion to receive for informational purposes the unaudited financial reports for the 12-month period ending December 31st. Moved by Vice Chair Goss, seconded by Member Layman. Anyone opposed to receiving the report? Seeing none, that is carried. I'm gonna look to, we're looking to 5.1, which is the LPS community engagement report. Back to you, Deputy Chief Engineer.
Thank you, Chair. I just noted on the agenda there that this is a presentation that's originally coming out of Uniform Division, but I also would be remiss if I didn't recognize corporate communications. They play a huge role in ensuring that all the great work that we're doing out in the community is also communicated back to the community through our social media platforms and inviting members of the public to come to our open houses and such. So Inspector Pete Testa from the community branch is here to provide a presentation on our 2025 community engagement report. But before he begins, I really need to recognize Executive Director Stephanie Johansson. She actually brought this to our attention. This is a report that Vancouver Police has done in the past, and it was outstanding. And as Chief Kong has spoken about many times, that the cornerstone to what we are doing is community engagement for all of his 3 priorities. So we've had a concerted effort over the last year trying to build those relationships. And this is just a combination of all that great work. So I'll pass it over to Inspector Testa.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. And Chair, through you, I'm pleased to present the 2025 Community Engagement Report. This report provides an overview of the initiatives, activities, and collaborations undertaken by members of the London Police Service during 2024 and into 2025. I'll briefly touch on some of the highlights from each of the themes included within the report. The first theme is youth-focused engagement. Rookie League Baseball is a partnership between LPS and London Middlesex Community Housing. Officers identify approximately 100 8 to 12-year-old at-risk youth for a 6-week baseball program throughout the summer. This program instills leadership, teamwork, and positive play in sport. Second is the Youth in Policing Initiative, or YIPI. YIPI is a mentorship program for youths 15 to 18 years of age that have an interest in learning about law enforcement. It focuses on personal and professional development and community engagement. Youths experience a variety of opportunities throughout the 8-week program while being exposed to a work environment within the LPS. This year, we aim to have 50 participants. Coffee with a Cop runs throughout the year. It's a program where officers welcome community members to join them in discussion over coffee. This format has proven to reduce barriers and encourage interaction between police and the public. Pro Action Cops and Kids is a new initiative where officers run programs with youth to bring unique programming experience to the community. The officers focus on building partnerships with youth through themes such as sports, arts, and culture. Building Unity in London's Diverse Society, or Project Builds, is a 3-year policing grant partnering with St. Leonard's Society and at LOSA, focusing on safety in and around schools like cybercrime safety, adolescent mental health, and youth allyship. We believe that these aforementioned programs help engage youth and encourage them to make positive life choices. The second theme is diversity and Indigenous relations. The Multi-Faith Dialogue Committee brings together faith leaders throughout the city to collaborate in open dialogue. Members share common concerns and champion the need for mutual respect in London. The Hate Crime Reassurance Policy is an initiative whereby an officer contacts either a targeted individual or group of a hate crime, provide focused support and guidance, and reestablish a sense of security in our community. Members of the LPS frequently engage with newcomers to Canada to help support their understanding of our role as police in Canada. We actively participate in citizenship ceremonies and newcomer events, and in doing so break down barriers and help build relationships. The LPS is dedicated to building respectful relationships with local Indigenous communities as well. With guidance from our Indigenous partners, we are developing a reconciliation action plan to guide us towards truth, justice, and reconciliation. We are also increasing training with Indigenous communities, providing invaluable firsthand experiences that promote empathy and knowledge. Additionally, we're committed to supporting and advocating for the LGBTQIA+ community through active participation and partnerships. LPS members collaborate with local pride organizations, allowing us to engage in meaningful ways, offering support and resources while promoting a safer, more inclusive society. The Missing Person Unit investigates and coordinates cases of individuals within our community who were reported missing. Circumstances can include lost children, adults with dementia, and even abduction cases. The Persons at Risk Outreach, or PAR, is a program designed to support women involved in the sex trade who ask for help, such as mental health and addiction treatment, housing, trauma counseling, and healthcare. The Persons at Risk Coordinator, Sergeant Luann Devine, provides support to almost 150 women at any given time. They are the point person many women go to for help. Victim Choice Reporting is a 3-year grant, which has modernized how LPS manages non-emergency intimate partner violence cases. Victims have the option to choose between a traditional in-person response or a virtual response. This innovative approach empowers victims and enhances efficiency by removing complex investigations from the service queue, enabling officers to focus on emergency calls and proactive policing efforts. The Intimate Partner Violence Unit, or IPVU, reviews all IPV cases to ensure that procedural and investigative requirements are met during investigations. Members in IPV are also responsible for the delivery of training, managing high-risk accused parties, acting as a resource for our members, and working with community partners. Within the IPVU is the Bail Safety Team. Bail Safety interviews victims of IPV prior to the release of the accused to help assess risk posed by the accused while supporting the Crown Attorney in presenting a comprehensive case during bail hearings. Collaboration and engagement with citizens. Citizens Academy is an 8-week program held twice a year, which includes presentations from law enforcement experts, providing insights into the daily operations and responsibilities of police. This initiative never fails to receive positive feedback from the community. The auxiliary program is comprised of 45 volunteers who, in 2023, contributed over 10,000 hours while balancing their own full-time jobs. They aid in crime prevention strategy, searches for missing persons, information booths, recruiting efforts, and youth programming. Auxiliaries are vital to community connection because they offer support to our organization and enhance community service. The police liaison team is a secondary duty for officers. It's comprised of 14 specially trained officers. Members work with individuals or groups to facilitate peaceful demonstrations, rallies, and labor disputes by providing expertise in negotiating, mediation, and resolution strategies. Throughout the year, members of LPS host open house events to allow public to learn about police operations and discuss issues in our community. Highlights include guided tours of LPS headquarters, a family-friendly Halloween trick-or-treat drop-in, and a festive holiday cheer open house. Some photos from some of the events we've participated in during 2024.
They're great.
Crime prevention in the community. Crime prevention is responsible for mobilizing and empowering the community to adopt safe practices to reduce crime and to improve community safety through crime prevention strategies. Crime prevention through environmental design, or CPTED, is a concept where the use of design can eliminate or reduce opportunistic criminal behavior in a specific environment. Crime prevention officers receive specialized training, which allows them to respond to both businesses and homeowners in the community. The community-oriented response, or CORE unit, works closely with community stakeholders to focus on building strong relationships within London's community to enhance safety. In addition to their community building efforts, the core unit participates in numerous local events and many evidence-based projects. Community outreach for mental health. Community outreach and support team, or COAST, proactively reaches out to and supports community members who are living with mental health and/or addiction issues. Together with partner agencies, COAST works to provide individuals experiencing high acuity mental health and addiction issues with crisis prevention services, and in doing so, helps keep those struggling from being admitted to the hospital, or from becoming involved in the criminal justice system. Crisis Call Diversion, or CCD, involves a mental health crisis worker embedded within our communication center, where they work to divert non-imminent risk mental health calls away from a police response and towards a more appropriate mental health response. CCD staff links those in crisis to appropriate supports in the community. For example, in January, CCD had a diversion rate of 64% of the calls that were received away from a police response to an appropriate mental health response. Community support services. Examples of community support services offered through LPS are the Crisis Intervention and Victim Support Unit, or CIVSU. They are civilian crisis counselors and members of LPS. As well, the Victim Services of Middlesex London, or VSML. This is an organization which works out of LPS headquarters. Both CIVSU and VSML receive referrals to support victims and survivors of crime and tragic circumstances in a timely manner, with a goal to reduce the impact of trauma and victimization. In 2024, CIVSU and VSML attended almost 800 calls for service between them, and they had almost over 2,200 people accept victim referrals. Another example of community support service is the Serious Post-Incident Community Engagement, or SPICE. In the event of a major incident within our community, Londoners may feel distraught, and their sense of safety and security is shaken. The SPICE protocol involves members of LPS responding to the community's need to feel safe. Members engage in this protocol, contact and invite relevant stakeholders when appropriate, and attend the scene of an incident to act as a point of contact and support the affected community or member. LPS organizational history and tradition. London Pipes and Drums. The London Pipes and Drums band is a vital part to the local community, uniting law enforcement and the public through music. The band is composed of volunteers, including serving and retired police officers. They participate in police and community events, representing LPS with pride. The LPS Color Guard was formed in 1979 and was the first police ceremonial unit in Ontario. Today, the Color Guard represents the LPS with pride and professionalism at numerous community events and at the National and Ontario Police Memorial. You likely most recently saw both the Pipes and Drums as well as the Color Guard at the inaugural Chiefs Gala on January 29th. In conclusion, the Community Engagement Report highlights the ways in which LPS remains dedicated to strengthening community trust and increasing community safety. We will continue to evolve our initiatives, listen to our community, and work collaboratively with all partners to ensure the well-being of London. This concludes my report, and I'm happy to address any questions you may have regarding the report.
Thank you, Inspector Testa, for that exemplary report. Members, any questions for Inspector Testa with regard to same?
Thank you.
You covered it all. Yeah, that's really good. I didn't know that about the color guard. First out. Absolutely. Yeah. Please, someone to receive it. Also looking for a motion to receive the community engagement report. Moved by Vice Chair Goss, seconded by Member Walker. Anyone opposed to receiving receipt of that report?
Can I comment though?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think it was absolutely excellent. I was I couldn't take my eyes off it. It was prepared well. It was, the summaries were wonderful, and I loved all the photos. I really think it's a great report for our community. So outstanding job to all those people involved.
You know, Member Branscombe, I'm keeping my eye on the clock because of the, you know, because I'm chairing the meeting here, but I'm going to take a minute and say something about this report. So in addition to Inspector Testa's outstanding report there, what I've learned in my three and a half years on the board is that policing isn't just about the day-to-day law enforcement. It's about actually getting out into the community, facilitating relationships, making connections, going out to different events, going out to different community cultural events, going out to different, and something that I've noticed just a marked increase coincidentally over the last 19 to 20 months has been the level of engagement, the level of presence that our service has out in the broader London community, from the chief to the deputy chiefs to you know, Inspector Testa to just so many different members that are out there. You'd be hard pressed to go to many events without seeing police representation. And the value, like the qualitative value of fostering those relationships and facilitating those contacts. And sometimes it's the first time that an individual will ever interact with the police officers at one of these events, right? And I'm not just talking kids, I'm talking about like adults. Londoners, newcomers to the country who come out to an event, who come from a place where contact with the police isn't necessarily a positive thing, and they see the chief out at an event, or they see, I saw you guys were covered in a rainbow at one of the adventures, right? But there's value to that. There's value to that, and you're never really going to find that value captured in any metrics or analytical report that shows, you know, quantitatively this. But you can see it qualitatively, and you can see the number of people that have spoken to me, spoken to members of the board, where they say, like, it's incredible to see the level of community engagement. So when I say, Inspector Testa, thank you for the exemplary report. Yes, it's the report. Yes, it's the presentation, but it's everything that goes into that, right? And a tip of the hat to Chief Trung, the deputies, and all the members of the London Police Service for doing such important and integral work in terms of you know, I don't know if rebranding is the right word, but at least introducing this face, this part of the face of the London Police to the community at large. So thank you for that. So, and with that, so thank you. There's no segue from that into mandatory missing persons report. So I'm going to look over to Deputy Chief Guilford for that report, sir.
Thank you, Chair, through you. I think I can make up some time.
All right.
Report. So there we go. This is the mandatory report on urgent demands that are made to different institutions when we have missing people, that there is some urgency due to the circumstances surrounding those that we need to find them. So in the year of 2024, we had a total of number of 43 urgent demands that were made in 18 different investigations. That's all in the report for you. And I can open it up there to do any questions that you may have, but that's a report before the board.
Thank you. Questions, Vice Chair Goss?
More comment, just my last arrival on that I did actually, we had a missing person where these demands had to be made, and it was actually good to see that the relationships that had been established between the various banks and different services as well that service has, and how professional our officers were. Found the person relatively quickly, in a couple hours, this is these relationships are critically important when time is of the essence. So yeah, I'll move receive, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Goss. Move to receive the report, seconded by Member Stevenson. Anyone opposed to receiving the report? Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you, Deputy Chief Guilford, for saving us some time there. Appreciate that. Moving on in the agenda to number 6.1 specifically, looking to Deputy Chief Bastine with regards to the first of 3 SIU reports there.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, there are 3 reports, all pertaining to investigations conducted by the Professional Standards Branch pursuant to the CSPA following investigations done by the Special Investigations Unit. The first involves custody injury of an individual who was apprehended under the Mental Health Act after officers responded for an individual in distress who had taken an overdose of medication. The individual was armed with a knife, and while the officers were able to ultimately apprehend the person successfully, during the course of disarming the individual, her hand was cut. And as a result, the SID was engaged. Officers were cleared, and the investigation found that procedures had been followed, that procedures were adequate to provide officers with guidance, and also that the conduct was in keeping with legislation.
What do we just? Are there any questions for Deputy Chief Bestine with regards to the first SIU report? And then if there is, now ask. If not, we'll just go right to the second one. And then I can do a blanket motion to receive all of them. So any questions? All right, Deputy Chief, we can go to the next one.
The second involves the death of an individual when officers were dispatched to call, which involved an intimate partner violence homicide. Officers arrived and find that there was an individual who had been stabbed, who directed the officers upstairs into a house. The officers quickly made their way upstairs, found a female suffering from life-threatening stab wounds, and engaged an individual there who came at them with a knife. They immediately engaged the individual and fired upon him, and he succumbed to his injuries. The SIU investigated the officer's conduct, or from a criminal perspective, found that cleared them of any wrongdoing. It was very clear that they had absolutely no choice with respect to the circumstances they faced, that deadly force was the only option available to them. Similarly, the PSB investigation that followed cleared the officer, or found the officers had been compliant with procedure and legislation, and that procedure was sufficient to provide officers generally with guidance. In the third case, this goes back to another custody injury involving an ex-partner of a woman who called police to report that partner had broken into the home. Officers arrived, and in the course of arresting the individual, a canine officer with the police service dog was in attendance. The individual failed to comply with commands to surrender to them, and the dog engaged them, resulting in some puncture wounds which required stitches. The SIU investigators found that there was no basis upon which to believe any criminal offense had occurred, and cleared the officers. Similar to the others, the PSB investigation that followed found that they had complied with procedures and legislation, and that service and procedures in place were sufficient. Subject to any questions on that one, those are the reports to the board's information.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Bestine. Any questions for Deputy Chief Bestine? What can I do, Member Walker?
Just a couple of things quickly. First of all, I want to really honor the life of Graham Broadfoot, who was just incredibly courageous and who should still be here today. Just a heartbreaking situation, and I want you to know that every single person I spoke to who was involved from a victim perspective, family who lost something, just so grateful to the way the police handled the situation. So I wanted you to know that, because it's very difficult when you have to go through something like that as an officer. And I do know that sometimes there's a lot of questioning of how things were handled, but I continue to get remarks from the community around the response of the police in that situation and how incredible it was. So I just wanted to say that. I wanted to ask you though more specifically about sexual assaults, and why is it you think that the number of sexual assaults reported to police has increased? Am I in the wrong area?
Oops. Sorry, through the chair. That is I think that's pertains to the following report.
Oh, for God's sake.
That's okay.
This is to bring them to life. Yes, either ahead or.
You've got to be one step ahead and one step behind. So,
Okay, well, I'll just save that until the next one.
so any, we got a sneak peek into the next question. You got time to prepare based on that one. any questions for Deputy Chief Bestine with regards to the three SIU reports? I do want to say, when I was reading the third report,
Bless you.
shout out to the K-9 unit, right? I saw that, the training is to actually go fight and then hold until the officer shows, right? I'm just marveling at that. So, motion to receive the three SIU reports, actually section 81 reports, for informational purposes, which, by the way, just to combine a few things, the Maloney inquest, one of the recommendations was that the board actually create a policy dealing with section 81 reports. So just to see that, that'll be also coming to a future board meeting, that's discussing that as part of the recommendations there. So, motion to receive for informational purposes, moved by member Stevenson, seconded by member Layman. Anyone opposed to receive for informational purposes? Seeing none, that is carried. Moving on the agenda, we'll go to agenda item number 7, Criminal Investigation Division 2024 reports, 2024 Sex Assault Investigations Report. Staying with you, Deputy Chief Christine.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, the first report submitted in accordance with board policy with respect to sexual assault investigations requires that the chief report annually on the number of sexual assault reported, number of cases reviewed by the Violence Against Women Advocate Case Review Program, and any recommendations that program makes. Couple of highlights in the report, fairly self-explanatory, but sexual assault reported last year did decrease just over 12% compared to the previous year. The number of cases cleared by charge remained roughly the same at just close to 40%. And number screened for review by the advocacy group or program was again fairly consistent at about 45%. There may be some questions, I suspect, but subject to any questions, that's the board for its receipt.
You suspect? I'm gonna, thank you, Deputy Chief Bestine. I'm gonna look to member Walker to myself.
I was just wondering,
Excellent.
why do you think there has been a decrease?
So through the chair, that's a good question. I don't know. If you look at the statistics of the past 5 years, there's an increase to almost 300 in 2021, and then somewhat of a decrease over time. I think that's a good thing. I don't know what to attribute to it. Frankly, I think there's a lot of factors at play, knowing that even to report the incident to police, sometimes we see elevated numbers as perhaps being indicative of increased trust in police. But to put, I don't feel confident to be able to put to attribute one particular thing or even a couple of things to perhaps decrease. What I look for, when I see this, what stands out to me is the fact that the number that we're clearing is roughly constant. We'd like to obviously see that go higher, but at the same time, that is significant.
Yeah, I just wondered if it had anything to do with how full every agency in this city is right now, and the difficulty in serving the numbers that are coming forward. And I wondered if maybe it was because fewer people are coming to the police because fewer people are able to get support to feel confident coming to the police. But I wondered if you had anything more detailed, but that's just sort of, I do know that it's very difficult to access services in London as it is across the country. And I wondered if that had anything to do with why. Solid yes.
I suspect that through the air that I think, I do think a lot of it has to do with, like you said, that trust piece and people feeling that they're able to come forward, and we undertake efforts, including anonymous reporting through, people who can share without coming forward or really disclosing who they are. At the same time, that's probably something worthy of study, I suppose, right?
Because the thing about trust is, I think, why would trust all of a sudden drop off? Like, I feel policing is getting better, and so it's unusual for me to think, well, they no longer trust the police the way they used to when it's only been getting better. But it would be interesting to do a study. I did have one other question. So you do talk in your report about how, whereas you define, going to another page, I'm just so screwed up with my pages today. Here it is. Okay, so you talk about a sexual assault report and what that means, which is a report of sexual assault received by LPS from a complainant age 16 or over. So what I'm curious about and wonder if you can help me is, what is the definition? You just made me think about this, and also combined with the report that we had just a few minutes ago by my friend Pete Teska. And I just wondered, so what is the definition by London Police Service of IPV? Because nobody out there knows what it is in the real world. They're always asking what it means and why police use that. And so I'm wondering, what is your definition of that?
I don't, so through the chair, I don't have that answer verbatim for you. I can certainly dig it up very quickly, but essentially it has to do with, in the context of an intimate partner relationship, which trust means between a whether same sex or opposite sex couple, or two people involved in an intimate relationship.
Is it hard for police to identify the primary aggressor when it could be either a man or a woman that is covered under intimate partner violence label?
I think what we know, that statistically speaking, we know that the vast majority of primary aggressors are men, and we know that it's overwhelming at the statistic. I would say it's over close to 90 or greater percent in cases where there is a violent or there is violence in that relationship. Vast majority of instances, it's perpetrated by a man against a woman. And that, so our definition, it doesn't specify male violence. However, statistically speaking, that is the vast majority.
So my last question or point, I promise, is that I've mentioned this before, but intimate partner violence is actually meaningless to most people who are victims of male violence against women. You just identified that it's mostly women that are the victims by men. So it would not be inappropriate to call it male violence against women, which accurately reflects what it is. And also leaves, if you name a problem, people can help fix it. If it's out there in the obscure that people don't even know what it means, it harms women actually. And what I think is really important is to understand this from a woman's perspective, which is it is male violence against women. Intimate partner violence does lead people to misunderstand who is the primary aggressor, and sometimes they think it's the woman, even though it isn't. And I really feel that that is an area that there could be a lot more focus on, and a lot better understanding of the public if it was named appropriately. So of course, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just giving you an observation, which I think is an important one, because honestly, every speak I go to, people always ask me, so what does IPV mean? And so if women who are there to learn about the issue don't know what it means, a lot of people won't know what it means. Just a comment.
Thank you, Member Walker. Yeah, sure. Unless there's any other questions or no, seeing none. I'm gonna look before you move receive them, so don't shoot Trump to provide some insight.
Chair, through you. Thank you, Member Walker. I just wanted to comment on the 12% reduction sexual assault being reported this year. So it is very complex, as you know. I will say that one would look at a reduction in crime or crime being reported is a good thing. I can tell you from myself and the leadership team here, when we look at a reduction in sexual assaults being reported to our organization, that is something that we see as a concern, and the concern is underreporting. So it's important not to celebrate a statistic without the full context and what is happening with gender-based violence. So we look at that as how important it is for us to continue our efforts with community trust, and that you can't stop. You have to continue to build trust within the community, but also our commitment to investigative excellence to make sure that our officers are trained, continue to be trained, and our area of focus is gender-based violence. So I will reassure you that that is a statistic that I'm fully aware of, and that is something that we just don't sit back and say, oh, it's not happening. Because like you, I truly feel that trust within this community with our police service and the many communities within London is increasing and strengthening. We know that, we feel that, we hear it from the community, and from the excellent report that Inspector Testa showcased. Really, it is the work of everyone in this organization that's moving together to build trust. So it is a statistic that we look at and we look at, we don't actually celebrate. We're aware and we try to continue moving forward to, that's an actual stat we want to increase.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. And I was not meaning to insinuate that I was celebrating or any of you were. I just was trying to sort it all out in my brain.
Thank you to both of you. Thank you. Motion to receive for informational purposes, the sex assault investigation report moved by Vice Chair Goss, seconded by Marie, Member Walker. Anyone opposed to receiving for informational purposes? Seeing one, that is carried. Moving on to agenda item number 8, Chief, the Chief's Gala financial report, and then we have verbal updates. The only reason I'm telling you that is because in 15 minutes, we're gonna lose quorum because a couple of members have to leave. So I'm gonna try to get the next 2 agenda items done in the next 15 minutes. So over to you, Chief.
Yes, Chair, and through you, this will be quick. You have my report before the board seeking decision. There's 4 recommendations that I am asking the board for a decision on, and I will share with the board. It's just under $240,000 that we raised for this community that will be able to give 2 incredible organizations, YOU and CMHA, Thames Valley. And we need to hash out a couple more sponsorship funds to receive, and we're looking forward to presenting the funds to the organizations with board's approval and the board support. So I'm seeking that the board receive this preliminary report. I'm also asking that the board approve disbursement 50% of the funds to both organizations, and that we receive your support and continue so that we continue making sure that the gala is an annual event for the community, and that you direct the development of a formal donations and sponsorship board policy or foundation to ensure that there's proper governance and transparency in our fundraising activities. And I will just highlight again, the purpose of the gala was to truly recognize the incredible work of our members, the organization. The second part of the gala was to celebrate with our community, strengthen community trust, and let our community see the police service and the members that represent our police service. And the third ultimately was to raise funds for 2 incredible organizations in this community. Subject to any questions, those are my recommendations and asks.
Thank you, Chief Trump. Questions for Chief with regards to the gala report? I sure.
Nancy's.
Nancy.
All right, I'll move the recommendations.
So Nancy, actually, I have a suggestion on recommendation 4, if that's okay. Recommendation 4, I just would say if we could direct that to the finance committee for review and discussion, and we move recommendation 1 through 3.
I'm fine since I'm on the finance committee. That'll be cool.
So if that's all right, I'll move recommendation chair to receive the report. 1, to approve the disbursement of funds. 3, to support the continuation of the Chiefs Gala as a motion. And then 4, I would move that we direct that to finance committee for further conversation report back to the board.
Can we do that as one big omnibus motion, or do we need to do this two separate ones? Okay, let's do two. All right.
I'll move 1 through 3 as one motion.
Okay, so you just read them out. So
Yep.
members, a motion for numbers 1, 2, and 3 that Vice Chair Goss just wrote out, looking for a seconder of that. Seconded by member Walker.
Nancy seconded.
Oh, sorry. Member by member Branscombe. Anyone opposed to adopting 1, 2, and 3 recommendations in the Gallo report? Seeing none, that is carried. And then,
Then I will move that number 4 be referred to the finance committee of the London Police Service Board for report back in a future meeting.
okay, so that we will refer to the London Police Service Board Finance Committee the question of developing a formal donation sponsorship board policy, ensuring proper governance, transparent, ethical oversight of future fundraising events. So that will go to the Finance Committee. So moved. All right, so that's moved by Vice Chair Goss, now seconded by member Walker. I don't know. Anyone opposed to having that go over to Finance Committee? Seeing none, that is carried.
Just a huge thank you, Sheriff, for
Yes,
for a second,
please.
everyone that did a ton of work, and you know, I see Inspector Live and Director Graham, Chief, that everyone that was involved in the calendar was a big team, and it was quite a huge success for an inaugural event in London, Ontario. So I think it's about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but the perfectionists that are achieved this, despite the fact it was a resounding event, 1,200 people, all this money raised. I said to him at the end of the night, what do you think? You kind of to go, he goes, we can do better next year. I said, okay, all right. So,
Sure.
but then, yeah, please.
If I could, I just want to, first of all, say a special thank you to Nancy Branscombe and Ryan Goss, who worked with your incredible team. To get this up and running at the time that they did, it was a huge event that came off very well. I know, Chief, you're always looking for improvements. I get it. But a lot of time was taken by the folks that put this on. So, thank you for that. Just an observation. I know, Chief, this was big on your radar, things to do. I've got great fundraiser and terrific. We raised a lot of money to 2 worthy organizations. But I didn't really appreciate where you were coming from till I actually was there. And I want to speak from a sense of community, because earlier we had a report of the community engagement report, incredibly important that the police are seen in a holistic part of this community. And I think this is the other side of it. This allows the community to reach out and show their appreciation that I saw that night for these incredible brave women and men that serve us and protect us. We see these acts in reported in the media. We see it here a little further deeper, but still it's numbers, it's names, but we don't appreciate what actually went on. And when I saw those folks showing the humanity, I guess, that's behind the badge and the toll it takes physically and emotionally, what they do every day that on our behalf. And then to see the standing ovations that came from 1,200 people, 1,200 Londoners. It gave us a chance as a city to reach back to the police services to show our appreciation. And I think that's the other side of this community engagement. So I'm just thrilled that you and your team put this on and you were so passionate about it. I get it. Now I get it. So thanks. Thank you.
And I just want to piggyback on one thing that Steve said so eloquently is it was the first time, despite all of us being in this role for a few years now, to see the officers get choked up telling their stories, right? It's not a love the media, right? But it's not just a part, it's not a quote in a paper, it's not just a 30-second clip on the evening news. To actually have an opportunity, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to tell a story and provide that insight, and to see the officers who you don't really get to see the person behind the uniform or the person behind the badge too often. People think about the police as the police, they don't see the individual, right? And to see the officers get emotional and break down, and I know there was many examples of that, but one that stuck out for me was to have members of the Absol family that were in attendance at the gala. And when we spoke with them, it's like they wanted to be there, they needed to be, they wanted to pay everything that they've gone through since June 6, 2021. The love and the adoration and the respect and the esteem and the regard that they have for the London Police. They wanted to be there that night to be physically there to pay their respect and say thank you. And it was valuable to the family, but it was also valuable for the officers to have the family there. And it was the first time I was there. I introduced some of the members of the Absol family to some of and they were meeting for the first time in one case. And I stepped back and I almost got emotional myself because it's like, so again, it goes to what I was saying with Inspector Testa. It's like when we talk about community engagement, it's not the quantitative metrics. It's like that stuff that can never be captured, that can never be measured, to actually put people in, like, man, the value. If that was the only reason you threw the gala, just that YOU and CMIT say, right? It's like it would be worth it still to do the gala for that. So to Member Lehman's point, thank you for helping us to see that, because when you first brought the idea of a Chiefs Gala, I know some of us were like, sorry, what? Yeah. And now after one time, we had people come up to us at an event we were at last week saying, looking forward to the next one, right? So tip of the hat, and thank you, Member Lehman, for saying that. It's so valuable. So moving on to, in the 5 minutes we have left here, all we have left is verbal updates. So Chair's report, followed by Amy Johansson's report, followed by Chief Chung's report. I only have two things I want to reference today or tomorrow is Rock Your Socks World Down Syndrome Day. It's on March 21st. What you guys can't see is if you were to look underneath, everybody's rocking some pretty special socks today, right? So I don't, when Stephanie sent me a message yesterday saying, can you please wear kind of crazy socks? I'm like, I don't own crazy socks. But my kids bought me, I've never worn them, these baseball socks, like the most atrociously ugly thing, right? But I put them on today, and the chief and everybody else, I mean, Vice Chair Goss is wearing rubber duckies right now. So but I just want to say, it was great that the board and the service were able to gather today at headquarters, kind of duo, right, for World Down Syndrome Day, which is tomorrow, but also to celebrate one of LPS's most beloved employees' birthday today, Kevin, right? So I just want to say thank you for that. And then one thing I just want to say a special thank you to the chief and to other members of the service is it's Ramadan right now. We're actually entering the last 10 days of Ramadan. And when I talk about community engagement, just talking about it from a personal perspective, the number of times that I've been at community events over the last 20 days, iftar dinners, where people in the Muslim community gather to break their fast, and to have, the chief and the deputies and, Inspector, sorry, I was promoted, Sergeant Zabian, right, and others to come out to the community events. I just want to say in a personal plug, how much that's been appreciated by the Muslim community to actually see, again, one iteration, one manifestation of that larger piece of community engagement. The macro, but this is the micro, to see them just how that hasn't always been the case, right? And I just want to say thank you on my behalf and on behalf of the Muslim community for that. And I do want to segue into the fact that tonight, right here at LPS, we will be having our first annual. I say annual again next year, right? Ramadan iftar dinner here at LPS, and something that's pretty special for a number of Muslim members, sworn and civilian members of the LPS, and me as well. So it's pretty cool, to be honest with you, that we get to have this event here tonight. So I want to say thank you to Chief for organizing, and Sam really for doing all the hard work and for facilitating and doing that. So thank you very much for that. And even Chief looks a little famished today. It's because he's also fasting, right? So you still got your A game, but as people know, with Ramadan, it's no food, no water. You're not ingesting anything during the day. And so shout out Chief for doing that. You guys will remember when we interviewed him.
Yeah.
During his interview process, it was Ramadan, and they were pouring glasses of water and, he said, no, I'm good. I'm like, who the heck does an interview without having a glass of water? And then afterwards, he very, subtly mentions he's fasting. And I go, what a savvy interview move, right? What a savvy interview move, right? There's a man doing his research. But, yeah, no, I just want to say thank you to the chief and to the deputies and the service for tonight's dinners. I'm looking forward to it immensely. So that is the chair of verbal. I'll look to Executive Director Johansson for a report for you.
I'm looking at the clock.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut every update but one. I can give the other ones next month, just because Father Jim's in the room. I want to thank him. We're currently working together to coordinate a tour for the board members for the Ontario Police College facilities. And so we're gonna try and work through that in the next couple of months. And he's coordinating, helping me reach out to, is it Sergeant Major Jim Birdie? So we'll be in touch about that to sort that out.
Father Jim, the man who worked harder than any. Thanks to Father Jim for everything. As always, you're a true asset in the Coast community. Chief, bring us home. Chief's update.
Thank you, Chairman, through you. And for the record, I've been fasting through Ramadan, but I've been cheating. I drink water and coffee.
Well, hold on. I won't tell anyone.
So I just want to highlight, Chair, and to the board, some of the incident where our members were involved with on March 18th. And I just want to highlight some of the work that they did. And on that particular day, an individual in our community called the suicide crisis line. That prompted some major concerns from mental health professionals to call EMS to respond. EMS responded because they had some concerns for the individual who called. EMS were unable to deal with that situation. And so who did they call? They called us. So we arrived on scene. We took over the investigation. Our frontline officers, and I just want to make sure I have the right section here. Our frontline officers from 4th section responded to that initial call. They set up containment. They commenced their investigation, and we stood up Major Incident Command. And that prompted Major Incident Commanders, that prompted ERU response. They prompted all kinds of resources. And our negotiators came into effect. And what I can tell you is that as a result of our response and the response from our officers, entry was made and immediate action was authorized. And that individual who we had concerns for his or her safety was taken into custody and brought to mental health professionals and received the medical care that they needed. So I highlight that because the vast work that we do is often de-escalation, and that is an incident of de-escalation. And I want to just take the time there's a lot of officers involved, including our call takers, but some of the responding officers to this particular incident, Inspector Jeff Ordino, Sergeant Van Bellingham, Constable Ty Hurst, Sergeant Dance, Constable Izako, I'm hoping saying that right, Constable Akwe Samai, Constable McDonald, Constable Leclerc, Ferrero, Malash, Acting Sergeant Bronson, Constable Manel, and Constable Dell guide us. And there's more officers, but I really wanted to highlight that for the board so that you get an understanding of, and you already know, really the community. So this is a large part of what our officers do. So I wanted to highlight that in the chief's verbal. And I also wanted to and speak very quickly about community, because today our open session here really, there's a theme here about community, and you see in the community engagement report. So thank you, Executive Director Johansson, for first bringing this on our radar. And when she first brought it on our radar, we were like, hey, this is a lot of work. We got stuff to do here. But the value of it to share and put it on paper. And when I speak to Deputy McSween about this and getting this, she understood, had her team ready to go, everybody put it together. And is it ever valuable? Because you actually don't realize how much work the organization's doing from this one lens. And if you recall, almost 2 years ago, my commitment to the board was looking at our organization, what do we need to do better? And it was, first, we got to take care of the members and the organization, modernize our organization. The only way we're going to strengthen trust within the community is make sure our organization and we invest in our people first so that they can build trust in the community. And only then can we make sure that this community is safe. So I want to thank my senior leadership team here, everybody here and everybody who's not here, because they're really leading this organization. And the commitment from all of our members, both sworn and civilians and civilian police professionals and our auxiliaries and our volunteers, everybody is moving in the right direction and is really getting and understanding the value of community in everything that we do. And lastly, I truly want to thank the board. I want to thank all of you for your support, your continued support in all that we do, because we would not be able to be moving the needle if it wasn't for your strong support. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief with regards to his verbal report? Seeing none, as there is no new business, look for a motion to adjourn. Oh, you do have a question?
No.
Oh, motion to adjourn. Vice Chair Goss, motion to adjourn, seconded by Member Stevenson. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, John.
Sir?